Hanukkah celebrates the triumph of the Maccabees over the Greeks 2,200 years ago, and the miracle of oil which lasted for 8 days. Throughout the generations, these events have taken on a meaning of thriving in the face of persecution and keeping our flame alive. And nothing captures this better than Hanukkah songs that were written at different points in history. In this video, we'll talk about the different themes that come up, from traditionalist to Zionist, and even some Christmas songs too, along the way. One of the earliest poems associated with Hanukkah is Maoz Tzur, commonly known as Rock of Ages. It has 6 stanzas, and the 4 middle ones describe the historic oppressors of the Jewish people, the Egyptians, Babylonians, and Persians, and the 4th one, making it relevant to Hanukkah, are the Greeks. Although we don't know exactly who wrote Maoz Tzur and when, we do know that the author's name is Mordechai, since he spelled it out as an acrostic. And we know that he most likely wrote it in the 12th century, following a wave of massacres that were associated with the Crusades in France and Germany. The poem does give us some hints about when it was written, with the line that says, Deche Admon Bitzel Salmon, which means, push away the red one in the shadow of the cross. Historically, the red one was a reference to Edom, one of the biblical enemies of the Israelites, but became used to refer to Rome and the Holy Roman Empire which followed it. Some have even gone on to say that this is a direct reference to the German Emperor Frederick Barbarossa, who ruled during this time and whose name means red beard. What is certain is that by the mid-1300s, Germanic communities have adopted this poem as part of the ritual of lighting the menorah, as recorded in the Leket Yosher, who documents that his teacher, the author of the Trumas Hadeshen, would recite this poem after lighting the Hanukkah candles. The tune we are familiar with today, however, was also developed in Germany as a common folk song and was adopted for various purposes besides Maoz Tzur, like the hymn written by Martin Luther called Dear Christians, One and All Rejoice. The irony is that Maoz Tzur seems to be a secretive prayer to bring about the end of Christian persecution of the Jews in Europe, like the line that said, push away the red one in the shadow of the cross. But to take the irony even further, despite the hidden meaning of Maoz Tzur, in America today, the Jewish holiday of Hanukkah and the Christian holiday season have become associated together, as we'll explore at the end of this video. The next song is also from Eastern Europe, yet we know it in English after it made its way to America. It's a little song about a dreidel, which is made out of, well, that depends on who you ask. In the original Yiddish poem that was written by Michael Gelbert, the material is lead, or blei, but of course in English it is made out of clay. Why are the dreidels in the songs made out of materials that aren't used in real life? The answer is actually quite simple. In the Yiddish poem, the line that it rhymes with is ein, zwei, drei, or 1, 2, 3. So the material mentioned is blei. In the English, the line that it rhymes with is dreidel I shall play, so the material that's used is clay. The English lyrics and melody we all recognize was written by Samuel Goldfarb in the late 1920s. In fact, just a decade ago, Goldfarb's son, who was 96 at the time, released an album reconciling the complex relationship he had with his father. The album opens with the original 1927 recording of Samuel Goldfarb singing the now classic song.
I have a little dreidel, I made it out of clay, and when it's dry and ready, then dreidel I shall play. Oh dreidel, 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 I made it out of clay. Oh dreidel, 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 now dreidel I shall play.
Despite the legendary status of the song, Samuel Goldfarb's own life was not such a pretty one. It started off promising, where he and his older brother Yisrael worked together in a shul in New York, writing and teaching Jewish songs. In fact, Yisrael Goldfarb is the composer of one of the most universal religious melodies, Shalom Aleichem. Yeah, the tune that everyone uses on Friday night. However, shortly after writing the dreidel song, Samuel Goldfarb abandoned his family, including his son, and moved to Seattle, causing his son to change his last name to Gordon, only to come to terms with his father's actions at the end of his life through the release of the album. Another Yiddish classic that we know in English is O Chanukah. It was written by Mordechai Rivesman, a song and playwright who captured Yiddish feeling and humor to a class of Jews who were beginning to assimilate in the 1800s. The song was made popular by a man named Zusman Kisselgoff, who recorded all sorts of Jewish audio like songs and davenings on phonograph wax cylinders. In 1912, Kisselgoff published a book called Lieder Zeinblach, meaning a collection of Jewish folk songs, which gave us the O Chanukah we know today. When it comes to the lyrics of the song, many people sing the line, "And while we are playing, the candles are burning bright," but that's actually not the accepted version of the song. It is, "The candles are burning low." The main source of this misconception are most probably, number one, this popular album, which changed some of the lyrics; number two, the show Arthur, which had an episode where they celebrate Hanukkah, and they sing the song with the word bright; and number three, Wikipedia also has it as part of the lyrics. The truth is that the version is almost certainly low, since this would preserve the initial Yiddish rhyme scheme, where the second and fifth line rhyme. Similar to how by the dreidel song, Bly may have changed into clay, but the rhyming structure remained the same. Unlike the songs we mentioned so far, which highlight the more spiritual and folk aspects of Hanukkah, songs that were written by early Zionists highlight the more secular aspects of the Maccabees' victory over the Greeks, since it reflects their own quest for self-determination. Another Zionist lyric change is the song Mi Yimalel, which was written by Menashe Ravina in 1936. It opens with the line, "Who can retell the strengths of Israel?" which is a reference to Tehillim, which says, "Who can retell the strengths of God?" Later in the song, it references the Maccabees, who the Zionists saw as role models that rose up and defended the Jewish state. Now, it goes without saying that Jewish sects that aren't pro-Zionist have an issue with this wording and have either dropped the song altogether or have adapted the lyrics to include a reference to God. And this goes to show how the holiday has come to represent different ideas to different groups of Jews, whether celebrating the miracle of God's salvation or Jewish action in the face of persecution. But in recent times, the holiday of Hanukkah has been adapted further to the more American holiday season.
I'm dreaming of a white Christmas.
White Christmas is one of the most popular holiday songs ever, and was first performed by Bing Crosby in a movie released in 1942. The song was written by a Jewish songwriter, Irving Berlin, who was born as Yisrael Balin, and like the Goldfarb brothers, immigrated from the Russian Empire. Berlin's song would go on to win an Academy Award that year for Best Original Composition and became the best-selling single in history. But Berlin isn't the only Jewish person who wrote a Christmas classic. The song Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer was based on a story written by another Jewish person in 1939. As the story goes, Robert May, who worked for a retailer, was given an assignment to come up with a story for a Christmas book. The goal was to distribute it to their customers to promote their catalog, and they requested that the main character be an animal. Now, Robert May's daughter was painfully shy and excluded by her classmates, which inspired May as he created his character. I heard that perhaps the reason he chose the feature of the odd nose was based on the stereotype associated with Jewish noses. One day, while sitting in his office, he watched a dense fog fall over the city, and in a moment, he was inspired with the resolution to the story that Rudolph's bright shiny nose was used to guide Santa's sleigh. And just as the song says, Rudolph did go down in history as the company distributed 2.5 million copies that year. And the song that was adapted from the story by another Jew, Johnny Marks, has become one of the most famous Christmas songs. The list of Christmas songs written by Jews goes on, but some of the most famous ones are Let It Snow, Rocking Around the Christmas Tree, and It's the Most Wonderful Time of the Year. From prayers to God to end depression to preserving folk culture of lighting the candles and playing dreidels and eating oily foods to Zionist songs, all the way to Christmas music. The irony is that since the days of Maoz Tzur, a wish to bring about the end of Christian persecution of the Jews in Europe, the Jewish people have found a way to escape persecution in the state of Israel and in liberal countries where Christmas and Hanukkah have become closely associated together. Before we close, we should get to some honorable mentions of contemporary Hanukkah songs, which aren't considered folk songs yet, but given a few decades, just might be. First is Candlelight by the Maccabees, which is a pop song parody of Dynamite by Tayo Cruz, which exploded with popularity in 2010. Another song I grew up with that has become synonymous with the holiday is a song called Fire is Hot by Rabbi Alter.
Aish is fire and fire is hot. Don't go near a fire, please do not.
Which taught children about the importance of fire safety. And finally, one of the most iconic Hanukkah songs of the recent years was written by Adam Sandler, which goes a little like this.
Put on your yarmulke, here comes Hanukkah.
Along this journey, we have seen that Hanukkah has been used to reflect the spirit of different groups of Jews and where they found themselves. No matter which song speaks to you, from our household to yours, we wish you a happy and, well, freilichen Chanukah.
Tell your friend Veronica, it's time to celebrate Hanukkah. I hope I get a harmonica on this lovely, lovely Hanukkah. So drink your gin and tonica, but don't smoke marijuana. If you really, really wanna, have a happy, 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 happy Hanukkah. Happy Hanukkah, everybody. Thank you.